always was a part of the process of the product than being the product. They didn't even care about the degree that I had. They was like, you got the job because you definitely had a personality, you can multitask in multiple spaces. I want to know all the different stuff. So that way, like, when people come up to me and they tell me, what do I do or what is some of the skills that I have? And they're like, oh, tell me more. I see my fellow, people struggling because they're not understanding that pivot. They take that jump and they have to go back to square one. Or they take that leap and nobody gives them that chance and they just give up.
Yeah, it's crazy because on the other side of fear is freedom. Hey everybody, it's Maureen and this is my podcast, Weighing In on the Way In. And today we're weighing in on Toni P's Way In. Based in LA, Toni P has cultivated her artistic expertise since high school, significantly advancing during her time at the UC Davis, where she earned a degree in dramatic arts. Subsequent to her academic pursuits, Toni's diverse skill set secured her a position as the executive assistant for Pilgrim Studios, contributing to both legal and post-production departments. With an extensive background spanning over 8 years in TV production, Toni has excelled in roles such as field post story producer for acclaimed shows, including Max's legendary S2, BET's Murder Inc. documentary, and Macro Roku's The Next Black Millionaires. Established in 2020 during the pandemic, Toni is the founder of Queens of Production. Her commitment extends beyond production as she remains dedicated to advancing narratives and talents that resonate with and culturally engage a new generation audience. Welcome to the show, Toni!
Thank you. Hi!
We always like to start with humble beginnings. So tell us about Toni, where she's from. I mean, we know based in LA, but is that where you're originally from?
I'm originally from North Hollywood area, but I always had like the arts or music in me, starting with my grandfather who raised me. I was raised by my grandparents. Growing up, my grandmother was like the typical person, like especially living in Hollywood, like she would be like, oh, you're gonna be the actress. She put me in all the auditions, all the things. And the normal kid would be like, yeah, da-da-da. No, like I hated the front light. I hated the spotlight. I hate being in the front row. I knew how to sing even down to the church. Like I know how to sing, so I was a soprano. They always put me in the front because I was cute and I had the voice, but I always loved being the alto. I like being in the mix. And so I felt like that was kind of like my mantra throughout my whole childhood. Like I always was like I always say now, like I always was a part of the process of the product than being the product. Even though my grandma and like those around me, they wanted me to be the product. They wanted me to be the, ta-ta. And I was like, no, like there's other spaces. And I feel like that was kind of what made me like that, like interesting black sheep in the family. But I was able to kind of hone my own. Once I got to college, that's when I kind of really got introduced of honing who I was as a creative.
How would you compare, from an artistic perspective, how would you compare young Toni to Toni now?
I would say Toni back then didn't trust the process. Like I felt like I didn't feel good unless I knew everything that was happening. For old Toni, just letting the hair down a little bit more and just being daring on the chances. I think if I trust the process a little bit more, I think I would have made different decisions that took me to different paths. Not saying that I didn't take the ones that I take. Hey, you take. But I feel like if I trust the process, I would have just gone with it instead of letting sometimes fear hold you back.
Yeah, fear definitely holds you back. So you knew early on, you've always known that you wanted to be in the arts.
Oh, 100%.
What happens after college?
And eventually, down the months, I wind up getting the opportunity with Pilgrim Studios through Craigslist. I found the job through Craigslist.
Craigslist used to be the jam.
The jam. When Craigslist was trustworthy, when you could find a house, a car, and you could find your job. Yeah, that was me. So I wind up finding that job. And it was crazy when I got the interview, 3 rounds. That's why I knew it was serious. I was like, oh, this is a job. This ain't something where it's like, oh, you come in and then you're in fear that you're, may not get that job or you get fired the next day. No, this is the real deal. So when I wind up getting the first round, it was with the assistants, got through, went through the second round with the actual, like, not the CEO, but like the COO of who I was going to be with the legal department. So I talked to her and then somebody in the team of post-production. nailed that interview. The last interview was the people who I was actually going to be my bosses, which was the SVP and VP of the legal department, and then the VP of post-production itself. So it was a C-level job. So when I was like, oh, okay. So mind you, I don't have like LA, Cali clothes. Like I got my church clothes because, Sundays always will get you the job. So I usually have my like church interview on deck. Okay, had that outfit on. And what was crazy for the interview is that I had the dramatic arts degree, which kind of relates to a little bit with the Pilgrim Studios, a little bit, even though it was reality TV and film. What was cool about college is that our degree, the person who created the program, he was also not only in theater, but he was in film because he was a scenic designer for Peter Pan, and then for 1992, and then he wound up being a scenic designer for Star Trek. So he always kept us in mind and always had this other mantra. What he told us is that always be versatile in your work because you never know if you're going to stick with theater or you're going to switch with TV and film. So always kind of, bounce in both. And that's why I always kind of thought of in my head when we went through the courses. Fast forward into the interview, they didn't even care about the degree that I had. The first thing, the VP of legal, first thing that comes out her mouth, Yael, she was like, "You was a DJ?" I was like, "Yeah." And I did this for 3 years, and I told them I told them all the extracurricular activities that I did outside of my degree. Okay, and that's what made them more interested than, some of the jobs itself. And I actually wound up getting the job because of that. Like they literally told me, like, they was like, you got the job because you definitely had a personality. You definitely have like some type of arts degree, but you're multitasking, like you're multifaceted, like you can multitask in multiple spaces. I would say for anybody that's still in the college spaces, I know it's different from how I was before the pandemic. So I don't know if they have those opportunities as much, but I studied my butt off. I was costume designer, light designer. I told you everything that was behind the scenes and not the actor, I was like work study or doing itself, like studying in it.
It is smart because then you get to kind of put your hand in everything and figure out what it is you actually like. So what happens after Pilgrim Studios? Where do you go next?
So Pilgrim Studios, of course, as an exec assistant, you kind of want to stay in that field for 2 years. It's kind of like your general education for TV. You kind of want to just stay there because if you don't, like, you're going to be them old people that's been there since they've been 50 and you don't want to be stuck and stagnant, or at least at that time. Like, this was like 2014, 2015, now going into 2016, 2017. So reality TV, especially at that mark, was like huge. The slates that we had was like Bring It, Welcome to Sweetie Pies, the Ultimate Fighter, down to Wicked Tuna, like, because Craig Pelagian was the creator of Survivor. So he knew the pockets and he had the relationships. He had a big relationship with Discovery. So he knew Discovery, A&E, and Lifetime. So I knew from a corporate level, C-level, how to build relationships and how those relationships are built. Because I'm literally sitting, my desk is like, second, like I'm like maybe here. The CEO is I can see his office like right straight ahead. And I'm only black girl with my hair like this, or maybe in another day, maybe in braids, having this opportunity and space to learn. Like this, not only like I'm, assisting somebody, but they're giving me gems and they're giving me tidbits on what to do, especially all the exec assistants and how we were formatted were together. So I was next to the development, the exec assistant who was a part of the development. So I knew a lot about development because of him and because his CEOs and all of them were around me. And then the production executive assistant was next to us. So we were the heart.
Right.
And the heart
right in the thick of it then.
Oh, we was into the thick of it.
What would you say was the biggest lesson that you learned about developing relationships from being around those CEOs and COOs?
I'll give 2 versions. The first version you'll learn in a corporate level learning relationships is that there is office language and etiquette. So it's like the way that I'm talking to you or the way that I'm talking to a friend of mine would be totally different if I'm going to be in an entertainment environment. Damn near, I've always had, like, when they say tokenism is real, like, it is. Especially on a C level, they're not thinking like the world. They're thinking of the business and what they view, the corporations above them view the world. So I've had instances where there was like one time the CEO and COO pulled me into the office and they were like, yeah, we're thinking of a show that we're trying to do, and we don't know if we want to say black or we say African American.
And they brought you in
Now,
to ask you that question?
yes, because as you see, I am the only, besides the receptionist who was also a black woman. It was like you could tell it was like little bits of us. It was so cute. We would sometimes like come together and we talk, and then like if we feel like the teams or stuff would come around us, we'd be like, oh, they feel like we're too much, and break, and we'll like break. Football team. Oh my god! But back to it. Yeah, it's those like where as far as me and you, we wouldn't have that conversation because we know who we are. Even if
what was your response?
I literally told them, I was like, well, now the normal me would be like, why are you asking me this question? Like, what? Literally, I had this in my brain. I'm like, in my brain, like an Issa Rae moment. Like, I felt like I was out of the character and was like, now what what do they think this is? Like, they asking me this question. Like, of course you would say African American, or, you wouldn't just say that you looking for, just be respectful. Like, and then I kind of had to dial back and I was like, okay, I'm dealing with corporate people. So how would it would be like a what would Jesus do moment. And I had that moment. So I had to tell him, like, well, I mean, if you are posting it like a casting call, because it pretty much is a casting call, you would say African American.
Yeah.
Because this is specifically what you're looking for. Now, I mean, you may get Black Twitter hitting on you. You got to hit the response. Now, that's when I keep it real with them. Because one thing about that company, they knew that I would keep it above with them like 100%.
The real answer is, I think this is a moment to recognize that you need to have more people, more diverse employees in your establishment so that they can provide you with the correct answer. And you don't have to come to the EA and ask me and put me in a position where I'm having no, I don't know what fleek means. Remember when they asked her what does on fleek mean? And she was like,
oh no, I've had a moment where I think there was like a lawyer one time. She was like, what's to pimp a butterfly? And I even thought to myself, I'm like you said, there's not enough. Like you're asking, like they always ask me the culture stuff. And I'm like, why don't you have development associates? Like there ain't none of me in that team. So why are you asking? Unless you giving me a raise and I'm gonna be a part of the team, then
right.
But if you're not hiring, then but at that time I was young. I'm coming in hungry. So I'm just coming in, just observing. And what I also learned too in corporate level is that you have to be quiet at times when there's a lot of fires burning and just observe and move accordingly and always have receipts.
Well,
there's always somebody that's throwing you under the bus, like Survivor.
But it's interesting that you say that from that time. You said it was around, what, 2016, 2017?
Yeah.
Okay. Because
I started there 2015 until about like 2017, because then I got promoted out to work on my first field show through that.
Okay. But just to kind of talk about like the years, right? 2015, 16, 17. When you look at the younger generation, they're not afraid to say exactly what's on their mind, whether they get fired or not. So I'm interested to know, what's your opinion about that? Because you said, well, when you're in corporate and you're just getting your foot in the door, you have to sort of comport yourself a certain way. What are your thoughts on this new younger generation and how they kind of handle corporate and just say what's on their mind?
I don't think, honestly, they have a corporate. With the fact, like, back then, like, it wasn't, before the pandemic, I was in an office. So I was able to really organically build relationships where now it's like all through Zoom. So, and even I'm having that experience, like, where it's like, dang, like, when I'm working on one task with multiple people, it's kind of hard, like, doing it virtually than it is being in an office. When I'm in the office, they know my algorithm, they know my mood, they know my swings, they know, like, even with me, I had to learn 10 lawyers and 3 people for post-production. They all move differently. One of them likes boy bands and has a bunch of water that comes in like every other day with 10 boxes. The other one, she loves to go on lunch at her lunch and she gone. 2 seconds, like I will not schedule nothing on her schedule. Another guy, he loves his dessert, so I always have a little dessert, a little something sweet in his office right when he had his lunch. You just know it compared to how you do on Zoom with this new generation. They don't have those genuine connections, and I think that's what's kind of, I think, faltering Hollywood a little bit because of the fact we're mixing in with social media based now creators and entrepreneurs, where it was back then where we had to hit the grind and have to be an executive assistant for 2 years and then move to this position and move to this position. Now it's just all over the place, and it's just like you don't know where you are going to be placed in what, and it's just now there's no like I feel like there's never been an ABC to do the task, but it was a little bit more clearer when I was like as an exec assistant as compared to now. Because now it's just like there's no opportunities either. It's like very hidden, like compared to like I was like finding stuff on Craigslist easily and stuff. Now it's like very hard. Like people say that it's easy, like, but I've been hearing it's really hard to really kind of get into the industry right now on an entry level.
Really? That's interesting. I thought that there are so many new opportunities because of social media. Wow.
Well, especially it was coming up until the strikes, the double strikes. And now it's like people are just kind of gasping for air, like, oh my God, like my money's running low. Okay, Hollywood is not, because Hollywood is still kind of not picking up. Like from what I'm hearing through, you know, my peoples in the industry, some of them are not really starting until March, April. Like stuff keeps getting pushed back. And, you know, thankfully I kind of pivoted weirdly in a weird time. I actually kind of pivoted 2021 when I went more into like remote post-production, story producing, and then I kind of leaned more from unscripted to documentary. So now I'm more in like documentary film festival space, which is, like I said, kid in the candy store. I'm a student, like I'm over here learning. Like this is a whole new world for me, Aladdin. But, you know, I see my fellow, you know, people struggling because they're not understanding that pivot. Some are like waiting. Some are like scared, like that fear of jumping. I feel a lot of people are in fear because they're either they take that jump or they're gonna have to go back to square one, or they take that leap and nobody gives them that chance and they just give up.
Yeah, it's crazy because on the other side of fear is freedom.
Hello.
You know? Hello. Do you still have a relationship with the people at Pilgrim after you left?
Oh, I still talk to my Pilgrim people till this day. Like I said, like I think because I had that experience to be in the office as like an entry level, it gave me really genuine relationships with people that really rock with me. Like I still talk with a few people like got me jobs still, like, or connected me with people still, or like, you know, still rooting for me. Like, cause I'm in sometimes spaces that they can't even give me opportunities. They're not asking me like, girl, when you get up there, I'm like, and sometimes when people be telling me that, I'll be like, nah, I'm not. But then I'm like, why are you blocking your blessing? Because you just gonna get up there. And thank you, because I will get you and hire you. Now I'm in that mindset. I still talk to a fellow, my executive assistant in development, because he now works with NBC Universal. And we were exec assistants together. And I remember we was down at the corner crying over here getting irritated from our executive assistant woes to now me being in the position he is and now he is. And he was able to connect me with like a DEI group with QOP for like a really good opportunity. And just to kind of reflect back, like not too long ago, we were exec assistants and we were entry level, and he was almost about to give up on doing development. You know, and it's just a blessing to be able to see their growth, because that's when they see the work across. That's what they mean when work across, because you may not never know that person you was sitting next to is going to elevate. And sometimes, and I give the devil's advocate too, you know, work across, be cool with people, but also keep your heart and keep your brain and stay 10 toes down on who you are as a storyteller. Because sometimes when you connect with people, sometimes energies kind of get a little tricky. So you got to make sure that you're kind of honed in before you get wrapped up in a world that you're not able to handle.
I know when I was in LA, I met a lot of EAs, and it's rough for EAs. What was the most difficult part about being an executive assistant?
I would say the most difficult part is like that assisting part. Thankfully, I had bosses though that like treated me like not less than. Sometimes people treat their exec assistants like they is a flunky. And I'm like, one thing first, I'm a person, okay? I know I gotta be knowing about your lunch and your allergies and stuff like that, but I'm not here, you don't function. So it's kind of like the sense of a PA. Like, I know sometimes people be trashing PAs all the time. And me, when I'm on set, I be loving PAs like they are the key, okay? Them, the audio people, the people that you don't see and don't care about, because they the ones like I said, they're the vein, the heartbeat, the function. One of them
They
don't work,
are.
it ain't working. And that's how I felt
Yeah.
as an exec assistant. Like learning that early, it gave me respect for people who do assisting.
Well, you learned a lot, definitely.
I've seen some drama. I've seen a lot on that floor as an exec assistant. I've seen a lot of layoffs. I've seen my first layoff before my eyes, like of a whole department. Like I remember it was this department and they laid them off due to budget cuts. And I'd never had that experience before. And I just seen boxes, like people just holding, like getting their boxes and being escorted out by the office PA. And
oh no, they had the escort out moment.
Listen, I was in there when a lot of exec assistants, the 2 exec assistants switched over. I was there when my whole lawyers were changed because of one show. So you see a lot of things on the executive assistant level that I really wish that a lot of people get that experience, especially for us as color, mainly for us to have that experience in a predominantly white space. It's kind of like HBCU. Like, sometimes like some people be exec assistant for like, like the Shonda Rhimes and all that stuff, but seeing it on a actual like production company's level, you see and you get to hear things that are a little bit different when compared to other companies. Like I really got to know a lot of what mandates are, slates, what shows want, especially on an international level, because I was dealing with the lawyers. And when I was there, they just hired our trademark and copyright lawyer, which I was hand in hand with her. So I knew a lot about trademarks and copyrights, both in the States and international level, because we had to, deal with a lot of cases for the shows and protection. People was, China, South Africa, they was trademarking a lot of stuff, but we got it back. We got it back. But yeah, being
for those who don't know what a mandate and what a slate is.
Mandates are basically what I would call and that would be development focused. Like if you're in the development team or in development side, they say that a lot. But a mandate is basically like, say for instance, and this was used a lot when we broke up stuff spring and fall premieres. So usually in a mandate, it will come in like a list that's given like in an email from like either a like agency like CAA, UTA, WME, like all those people would kind of send it as a blast to those that they have specifically, in their development brackets, like a production company or stuff like that they want to send mandates to. Usually they'll break them up in genres and they'll like kind of give like an overview of what they're looking for the year or what they're not looking for. The biggest thing is sometimes what they're not looking for. And so I knew, especially like in the 2015, 2016, 2017, a lot of mandates that were coming in was starting to transition into that reality real feel. They was getting tired of like the glitz and the glamour and the glossies and stuff like that. Hence why you've seen a lot of now transparent type of shows that are all over the place because the mandates kind of made it that way. And that's why, like, I think for people, on the outside looking in, they think that entertainment in Hollywood is such these glitz and glamour and all that stuff. But learning it in the business of entertainment and learning it for so long, like, I'm now almost getting close to my 10-year mark. I'm like at 8 years, 9 years being in the game. It's evolved. It's changed rapidly and quickly. And I think some people now, especially with the strike, it's shaking up people a little bit, but I think the double strikes last year really kind of shook up people on who's going to be here longevity and who was really in it for the groove for the time. Slate is basically, this is used, like, especially when I use it for, like, one of the assignments that I had to do overall for the company was I had to organize all the shows that were what we call, like, slated or premiering. Like, usually it's, like, either premiere, in development, or like in the like on air in motion. And I'd have to give like, I think it would sometimes be 6 pages. Ooh, child, but there was one time it was a little slow. It was getting a little 3 pagey. But sometimes I give like a whole list of everything that is in development, in on air, whatever, to the production company and slated, like organized, like who is in charge of each show, from the lawyer to the post supervisor to the VP of development. And that's when I started to know what organically I started to know who role was what. Because I had to organize them in a grid of who was what. Usually on a show, on a production company side, on a C-level side, we will see it as a lawyer will be in charge of the show. Post soup, a VP of development, which would be the development team who like created the show or like pitched the show. Then you have your like post team soup, which usually is like a head, and then it would be like a person like a post soup that would be in charge of the people. So it would usually be like Jen or the two guys and then somebody.
Okay.
Then you have your post coordinators, then it kind of trickles down from there.
Got it.
And so I learned each role, like what a showrunner is compared to an executive producer, because they're sometimes two totally different things. For the project that I'm on, I'm specifically the executive producer, but I'm an executive producer showrunner. So I'm in charge of all of the creative. I don't have no hand in the money. I don't have no charge of paperwork. I'm just in charge of creative and paperwork wise if it's dealing with clearance and fair use, like experience. Yeah. But my other co-EP, same thing. She's an executive producer, but she's more on logistics. That's the difference. So showrunner and EP, two totally different things. This is what I would take from this conversation. Right. And also to understanding the roles and understanding the business of entertainment and how it is evolving every single year. I wouldn't even say every 2 to 3 years. It is like every year. Something is evolving. And it's because now technology and brands and all those things are intertwining into content. And they're now building their capital to be able to create content as well. So it's like we don't have to rely on Hollywood anymore.
No. There are a lot of new different avenues for you to generate the funding that you need. What happens now after Pilgrim?
After Pilgrim, I was able to get a in-house opportunity to be an exec assistant. It was 2 roles that I remember being in the office. They pulled me in the office. It was like, okay, girl, you've been with us for too long. We do want to move you up. And they gave me 2 options. I was going to be part of the online department, which online handles like the footage and like organizing it in a technical way. And I was like, I don't want to be in a cave for the next 2 years because this was already a cave enough. Because being an exec assistant, sitting in that desk and it's cold and it's being there at that desk all day, it's like, no, ma'am. Like, I want to be out there in the sun or do something. I want to move. So they bumped me up to be an exec assistant for 2 executive producers. One of them was like the son to the father who created Cops. So he was just developing a bunch of political type of content. I was like, he just gave me his credit card and was like, just do what you want. I was like, okay. But then I was also another executive. I also had on my slate another EP who was the EP for Bring It at the time. And I gravitated toward her fast because I love the show. My sister loved the show. Of course, when I was an exec assistant, we had to handle Bring It a lot on the C level. So I was like, ooh, like, this is going to be great. And she was the one that taught me how to be a producer, honestly. And it was Megan Estrada. She was so interesting. Like, she was one of them, like, Beverly Hillsy type of girls. Like, I'll eat kale and smoothies. Click, clack. But she knew her shit, and she like we was at that time when I was her assistant. We were on season 4, and so every episode, I'd watch an episode. I have to go in her office, and literally she taught me because we wind up actually building the competitions ourselves, like the company itself. So we build the competitions, which the producer who was the rival team producer who wound up being me eventually. I had to scout, pitch, figure out who the teams that were going to go up against the dolls depending on what we would do for a competition, and then, go from there. So she taught me like who were the good teams that they go for. Like, she taught me everything. And she was also in charge of her whole post team. So she knew like who would be the right editors for this specific segment, which compared to be different for this editor and this story producer, and how she'd do it on a calendar. I had to be in charge of her calendar and her what we call deliverables. Deliverables is basically what I would call a paper version of your show. So like down to the scene. Well, for Bring It, it was a lot of scenes. It was a lot of competition. So we did a lot of like gridsy and formatted with synopsis, a bunch of stuff, and a lot of outlines and a lot of one sheets for talent. So that's kind of what was our thing, and field notes, all the things. So I had to organize that stuff. So again, learning on a C level how to now understand post-production, which a lot of producers don't really know. Like,
also, there are a lot of producers who don't like doing post-production either.
And those are the ones that are wheedled out. And they the ones that are stuck in the same position. And listen, some people like that. Some people want to stay in front of talent's face and some of them want to, do interviews and sit on the chair all day long. That's great. Have fun. But if you want to be up there with the Shonda Rhimes and being now an executive producer, which I think all of us are now at that point, like all of us are now realizing like we cannot wait on Hollywood. So we got to do something that's independent while getting our coin. And I've been able to channel that. And so I was like, oh, well, I can do interviews and I can talk to talent all day long, but I've been talking to Post and I like what they're doing. And I don't gotta be on set at 6:00 in the morning. I could just get up and watch a bunch of scenes and cut them down and give it to the editor, and I could go back home and go to sleep by 5, 6:00. Girl, sign me up. Yes, get me out of here. Get me off of set. And it was crazy. And I saw the difference when people started to see that I wasn't around as much. Because the producer life, after when you're on set, y'all get drinks, y'all have fun. No, I'm Nene Leakes. You know that meme when Nene Leakes got in her car and they was like, where you going? And she's like, no, I just want to go home and that's it. All I want to do is do my work and go home. That had became me. Because I started to realize, like, going back to when I was an executive for Megastrata, she gave me the opportunity to go into my first field job as the Rivals team producer and the associate producer for the mom. So I was doing 2 roles at once. Okay. So I had to move to Mississippi for a couple months. She's like, pack your bags. You're going out there. A couple months. So I got introduced to the traveling life and I loved it. It was great. Had the vibes. It was good. But then I started to realize, I'm like, I don't like these hours. I don't like that I'm being controlled for these hours for this small enough of pay. And I'm like, I started realizing and started seeing that post-production was starting to become remote. And I was like, I could just while I'm at home and I could control my hours.
Right.
Yeah, sign me up. Get me out of here. Like, anything that I can do that's just different, like, I will jump for it. And, like, what I also learned about entertainment is that some of these people got to zhuzh up their resume to cross over. And, baby, some of the stuff, I didn't know how to do Avid when I first got introduced. I learned along the way. I didn't learn how to do scenes. I learned along the way. And it's just like, that's the whole thing about entertainment is that some of the stuff I didn't even learn from college, which is crazier too. Like some of the things that I do now, like the only thing I'll probably say I learned as much from college is the multifacetedness. Like I said, when I was in college, I was doing a bunch of roles. And that's what led me to do after college. I've done a bunch of roles in producing, but I've learned that there's so many styles to just being on set and doing the interview questions and being there.
Right. There's a field producer, there's a line producer, there's a post-production producer. Of all the positions that you've been in, what would you say is your favorite?
My favorite is clearance. Like, I love, like, telling people no. Like, you can't clear that. That is not... Because, honestly, like, this is in archival producing, which I'm just getting into with documentaries. It's a whole world. Like, oh my God, all the stuff besides the sit-down interviews got to get cleared in some type of shape, way, or form. Most of them don't have to, but a good chunk of them have to. But nobody knows the steps to do that.
Yeah.
And I'm now in a position to not only do that, but to be in that position, if you pay me, to get it done. And most people, like, every time when I be seeing some of my producers, they be like, girl, what you doing? I'm like, I'm doing this whole position. They're like, what? Like, huh? Only thing they know is
that you learned on the job too, like
on the job. Okay. I learned it on the job. I learned how to do it when I first did Murder Inc. And I got introduced to it, and then because I had that credit in that position, it led me to another job. And then, thankfully, like I said, I've developed relationships. One of my mentors is like a part of a huge position for Macro. And that led me to, she had a documentary or docuseries, and that led me to be another archival producer credit for her. Because of the relationships that I genuinely had developed and maintained, because that's the other thing too, you got to maintain them. Can't maintain all of them, but the ones that you do, hold on to them. And between that and just like being able to accept the pivots, I've been able to do that. And like I said, like, clearing stuff and even some of the language that I say to people, it's a whole new world for them, like especially on an EP level, because some EPs don't even know how to clear their stuff.
Yeah.
And so I've now cracked that key to do it and crack the key to a conversation. That's really what it is. Like, I want to know all the different stuff so that way, like, when people come up to me and they tell me, oh, what do I do, or what is some of the skills that I have, and they're like, oh, tell me more. Like, instead of it being like, oh yeah, I know that you segment, you do this, you do interview stuff. No, I don't. I do more than that. I actually have done this, 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 and this. And
A
like,
long list. A long
oh,
list.
oh yeah.
What would you say is your advice for actually maintaining relationships? Because we talked about networking and creating relationships, but what would you say is your advice for maintaining them?
Generally care about the people that you maintain in relationships with, and accepting the ones that if they do fall off, because some of them shake off like a little bit. Like not everybody gonna be your friend, and that's what like I had to come in like and learn as I'm getting older, is that you have to stop having expectations on people. And I have to tell people up front too, like on entry level and all that stuff. Just because you Black and you coming in, not every sister and brother gonna be your friend.
Manage those expectations.
Manage those expectations, because baby, some of the energies that I've been introduced to and stuff, some of them I've been mad cool, and I love that I've been genuine with them. Like shout out to all the ones to my tribe, basically. But the ones that are not, and I had to shake off, are the ones that haven't. And when I look back, I'm like, woo, I'm glad that I didn't. Because the biggest thing for me is I don't like gatekeepers, number one. And I don't like I don't like opportunities. And being from California, especially from North Hollywood and LA, I could smell the opportunities from a mile away. Like I can smell it. My energy can sense it. People can tell that I'm from LA from the difference, because I'm different. Like I don't be like I don't be like like what's the coming at your neck. You gotta really get to know me, or get in my energy, in my bubble, to be like, oh, she a producer. Oh, she done this. Oh, okay. Wow. Okay. Nice. But like you ain't gonna get that from me automatically. Definitely don't have expectations coming in. And again, like I said earlier in the podcast, like just know who you are. Because when you know who you are, you're not gonna have people to tell you who you are.
Right. Great advice. So in 2020, during the pandemic, you birthed Queens of Production. Talk to us about that. Tell us more.
That was when I wasn't working. A lot of us wasn't working at that time. And when I was sitting down, I really had a reckoning at that year. I felt like a lot of stuff happened, family stuff. I think like at that time, 2020, my grandfather had passed away. So it was just so many kind of like, what am I doing? Especially at the time, I was like what Ryan Coogler in his interview had said about the workaholicisms. I worked my butt to the bone. I was traveling. I was doing all the things that I wasn't. When 2020 hit, I had to reflect on a lot of things. Like, damn, I really wasn't here for a lot of family stuff or a lot of friend stuff. That I'm like, no, because you wouldn't have gotten this opportunity. You wouldn't have done this if you would have just like been like, no, I'm gonna stay at home. So when I was like feeling that way, I was like, dang, like I wonder if my peers are like feeling the same way too, or like checking in, like what's going on with my people. So then I was just like, you know what, like let's do a Zoom call. So I wound up doing a Zoom call and just like was reaching out to people. It was like, hey, I'm doing a Zoom call for us creatives. It wound up turning to like 30 or 40 some people, like all queens from different positions, from PA entry level to like EPs, camera, animation. And we all was just talking, and what I realized is we all go through the same thing no matter what position we our start or where we end up. We're all going to go through the same thing of questioning our rates, questioning ourselves, questioning our creativity, questioning like who we trust around, like all the things. And so from there, these last 3 years, going on now to 4, I've been able to really turn QOP into a resource collective, being able to like, okay, well, all of us have these different positions, you know, as I'm growing into my development as a showrunner and EP, like, let me show y'all through that process. Not all of it, because, you know, NDA. But through masterclasses and through one-on-one consultations and through mentorship and guidance, or, you know, sometimes when I now do the IG live talks, I'm able to, you know, give a resource tool to people who just want to know a little bit of information of the stuff that I do, and also other positions from other people too, because I collaborate a lot with other people. I've done for mental health with R&B and yoga. We've done yoga classes where we brought people to that space, which got people to do yoga, to even collaborating with people like one of my homegirls does Editor Collective and in Atlanta, and, you know, being able to show the post-production side, because we're always hidden in the background. But I feel like QOP, we really try to make everybody the forefront. and also just be a cheerleader in your process. So now within the last 3 years, we've really been hitting home on the Resource Collective, and now we've brought on mentees and mentorships and all that stuff, which is pretty dope. And it's organically happened. Like I've like people, just because I talk to them and they'll be like, you be my mentor. I'm like, I'll take a minute, and if it aligns, and I'll say, okay, great. So I have like about 7 mentees that are really killing it. But I feel like this year we've now really kicked off, and we'll be officially transitioning more into what I will call a production hub. We have a couple of projects and content that we're actually had been able to give opportunities for people of some shows that we're kind of thinking of. So we'll be officially transitioning. We'll still do the Resource Collective part, but we'll be adding into the hub part, where if we do have concepts and creatives and ideas and we are working on a production, you can have that hands-on experience if you do have that opportunity.
Oh, I love that. That's amazing. I mean, that's actually how I came across you, your resource, your ability to get crew by posting something on your stories. Shout out to Judith Norman of Start Her TV. She connected me to you. Yeah. And I was like, hey, I'm looking for a photographer in LA. And immediately, you know, you're like, I have somebody for you after you posted it. So I thought it was really great. It actually reminded me of WAI, which is a listserv started by, it's We Are the Industry. I don't know if you're on that listserv, but it was started by the creators of Black Love. And you can just send an email out if you're looking for, you know, crew, anybody in production, people of color particularly. So Queens of Production has always been all female then.
It has. I do have little sprinkles of, you know, kings, and, you know, of course, like I'm like bisexual, so like it's even more of like the LGBTQIA, but I really do try to focus on our queens. If you do claim yourself as a queen, it don't matter who you are, wherever you are, I try to give to our sisters first. I've really made Queens of Production just a resource collective for everybody in the community. Because at first I thought it was just going to be just a resource collective for producing, because that's what I do. But then I've realized that my audience has grown so much, and more, and my collaborations have kind of diversified. So now I think the collective just became a resource for everybody and anything that I can gravitate towards too. And if I'm able to repost it, if I'm able to give the information, or if I'm able to kind of bring them on to our content that we have, then by all means, 100%. Because like I said, I think with me and just my process, like I hate the gatekeeping. And I think it's still a thing heavily, not only in Hollywood, but in the Black community. Like, I really think that Black Hollywood has this gatekeeping type of feel. Like, and thankfully I have like mentors and people who don't give me that vibe and really like be rooting for me in rooms that I'm not in. But some people will have that experience, and it sucks when I have like peers or people that still are like crawling to like get a chance, and it sucks because they have the talent and the opportunity, but not a lot of us get through the pipeline and make it through the pipeline and make it successfully, you know, because I've been honestly blessed to be able to say I have been able to work as a freelance creative, as a producer in field and now post for the last like 8 to 9 years. I've been able to do that consistently. I've been able to, you know, I've been in the rigmaroles with everybody, and I'll probably not have work within 2 to 3 months, but overall, 8 to 9 years, that's insane. Most people can't even make it a year or two. But like I said, I got into the game of understanding the business of entertainment and the understanding of its evolvement and how much it's going to grow and change, and how am I as a producer to adapt in those changes. Like, and not be scared of it too. Like I said, the fear, you know, some people wouldn't take some of the positions that I transitioned into, but then they didn't pivot like I did.
You went to Mississippi. Some people might hear Mississippi and be like, yeah, I'm not going there with
Listen,
some flag, like flying down in your downtown city. Yeah. I wouldn't say that the gatekeepers are just Black Hollywood. I feel like Hollywood in and of itself has gatekeepers, period.
Oh, no, it's period. But Black Hollywood is the same thing, because they learned from somebody. I feel like we're now breaking it as this generation. I know, man, I have a couple coins, but listen, let's just come together and do something. And that's what I wound up doing. Like, I bought a little gimbal, found some talent, and made some stuff work. Like I said, developed genuine relationships with people that had connections, some things, and it's been Gucci. For us as creatives, like, I know it's hard to stop being creative, but keep the creativity juices flowing, because you never know you telling it to one person or another person could actually get you that opportunity or that thing.
How does QOP generate revenue? Do you charge for your master classes?
Sometimes I do, depending on, but these last couple ones I haven't, just because I know with the strike, it's just been a lot. It's been hard. So like I'll do resume and real consultations for people, because I know the biggest thing too on the job hunt is how do I like make myself look good and look diversified? So we do those and we do charge, but it's not like buku, because I know sometimes people be doing master classes and stuff and they be like, yeah, or like they'll do little coffee one-on-ones. They be like, yeah, $300. I'm like, girl, what? Like even down to the festivals and stuff, because some people, you know, the part they always tell you, if you're not working, then network. And sometimes the network be costing, because you be going to these mixers or events and people be wanting to charge $100, $500, 20, sometimes $20, but then you got to think about the food that you're going to get. That's going to be a charge. And this, then parking. It's just a lot. While we're still kind of in the early stages of our business, revenue's kind of not my priority. I know it's going to grow and get to eventually revenue, but for right now, like I just want to be an olive branch to people. If they want to give me money, that's great. I'm not going to be charging at them. And if we do charge, it's not going to be something where it's going to be big out of the pocket.
I love that. Everybody go to her Cash App and support it.
Thank you. Because listen, we have so many new goals. And like I said, we have projects that are dropping in February. So it's just like, I'm really excited to have seen like QOP really grown. And honestly, it's grown organically with me listening to my members and like my audience and like people DMing me and being like, hey, I've been following for this amount of years or this long, or I remember when this was like 2020 and it was like a Zoom call. Like I remember there's so many people that started with me in the Zoom call are still following QOP. And what I really saw the difference was last year when I went to Essence Hollywood House, which is like, I don't know if you know, it's kind of like a little mixer that's out here for like Black Hollywood in a sense. And I went last year, and honestly, I saw a lot of my mentors. I remember one of them was like, girl, I'm surprised you're not a panelist. And I was like, one day, I'm going to be up there. And I remember I posted a picture on Queens of Production. I said, hey, if anybody's here, you know, I'm in this area. You know how many people like came up to me after was like, hey, like, I saw that you posted that you was here. I'm over here. And then I was like, hey, like, let's meet and like take a picture. And it was like, we took a group picture together. And like my mentors was looking, they was like, girl, like you done made like a little movement. Cause I kind of make QOP a little Vendetta vibe. You don't know it's me until you get to know me. Like, or you kind of already follow me and known that I'm kind of the one that's doing it, but everybody just doesn't know. Like, they just see this resource tool and they're just like, who the fuck?
They just see the resource. Yeah, same thing for me. I just saw a resource tool. I love everything that you're doing, and I wish it so much success. And you have an amazing personality.
Thank you.
Let's get into some rapid fire questions, okay?
Okay.
All right, so you're just going to choose one answer, and you can say neither if you like. You ready?
Yeah.
Producing or post-production?
Post-production, because I can see the raw footage.
TV or film?
TV. No, film, because I like documentaries now, so film.
Netflix or sleep?
Sleep, because Netflix has been kind of a little, I don't know. They got a couple shows, but they haven't really been selling me enough.
Travel or staycation?
Travel, because I said on my goal board I was going to travel more.
Entrepreneurship or employee?
Entrepreneurship, because I can't do the 9 to 5.
Dancing like nobody's watching or dancing in the corner?
Dancing like nobody's watching.
New career or grow what you have?
New career, because I actually told myself after the DJ panel, I said I would officially be done with producing. Like I wouldn't be doing this forever. So I said that once I finished that I was going to transition into DJing. So I'll be excited for that transition.
Okay. Grow your own brand or help someone else grow?
Both.
Skip college and go after your dreams or experience college first?
The first one. Because you don't have to go to college.
Not anymore. Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Toni, this is so good. I love your personality. I look forward to meeting you in person when I come back to LA.
Yes, I'm excited.
And I need to get a part of the production. I need to be a part of QOP.
Well, I mean, honestly, like to be a member, like yes, of course, reach out to us through email, which our email is on our website, queensofproduction.com. If you want to get more information, our email is on the contact info. If you're following, you're automatically a member. If you reach out to us a lot and engage, you are a member. We do have the VIP opportunity where we get to actually give you more stuff ahead of time before people. And then we also have our collaborations, like for companies and groups that want to collab on like doing like an event together, or like we come to support your event too, because I'm here also in LA. So I love being a cheerleader. So if you want me to collaborate and just have people come to support your event, we do that as well.
Love it, love it. Let the people know where they can find you.
You can follow Queens of Production at Queens of Production on Instagram. You can also follow us on Facebook, but we're heavily on Instagram. You can also follow us on Snapchat because we have a couple things coming up as well. So follow us on there. We are also on Spill. I know that's a Black-owned based company, Spill. And then we also have our website, queensofproduction.com.
Yay! I love it. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for letting me be a guest on an amazing platform. Thank you for having this.
Thank you for listening to the podcast. I appreciate all of you, and I'd love for you to subscribe, like, comment, and I'll see you in the next video.